Well, good morning. Thank you for joining us for today's Coffee Talk. My name's Sean O'Brien. I'm as always pleased to be joined by Steve Huntington. Steve, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks again, everyone. We really appreciate you coming back for the next installment of our CECL Coffee Talk. Again, my name is Steve Huntington. I'm the Director of Analytics here at Optima FI, formerly Quick Rate and Quick Analytics. Spent my entire career working with community financial institutions on all manner of analysis, and more than half of my career with Sean and the gang at Quick Rate and now Optima FI.
Rick, thank you very much. Pleased to be joined, today, to be a part of it today, and also equally happy to be joined by Bill Rogala. Bill, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself today?
Sure. Thanks, Sean and Steve, for having me. Been in business SaaS product for over 15 years in automotive and technology financial service organizations, leading the household insights product in particular now for Optima FI, which I'm going to show up at the end of this call and actually show a live demo. And please ask questions during that. It'd be great to get your feedback. Graduate Northern Illinois University, hence all the Blackhawks talk earlier, Chicago-based here. And I say competitive long distance runner, and I still got to move competitive other than still running, not so fast, but completing the races. So thanks for having me.
Yes, that's competitive for 50 kilometers. Finishing is competitive.
Can't be a long distance runner and not be competitive. So, all right. Well, perfect. Just a reminder, we will send out a link to today's recording and a copy of the slides. But also, again, very, very much appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to join us. Okay, so just kind of a recap. Optima FI, right? We're helping credit unions reach their optimal state of performance. Really, it's a amalgamation of three different entities that were all searching to help Quick Rate, Infusion Marketing, and IntelliCredit, all brought together under the Optima FI umbrella. Divided up the kind of the solutions, if you will, between growth, credit risk, and balance sheet. Again, call report insights, the household insights that Bill's going to discuss, and the marketplace all fall under the balance sheet solutions. So, Steve or Bill, anything you want to add there before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. Perfect. So, Jen, just a reminder, a little less frequently, but we want to continue to provide some insights on what we see and hear, updates to the CECL Solver, platform. Steve's got insights that, again, he puts together every quarter. So, again, just want to stay in contact, make ourselves available to you and any questions you might have. And then at the end today, again, Bill's going to introduce you to some information about household insights. So again, thank you very much for being here. Okay, we'll start off with CECL Solver updates. Steve, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. And I know we mention this every time, but please, any questions you have, feel free to interrupt us. We'll take them. That's kind of our number one priority here, is to make sure that there's anything pressing for anyone on the call that they feel comfortable to bring it up in the Q&A or in the chat, or however you want to do it anonymously. Makes no difference to us. And that's really our priority. And all the other content that we kind of build around here is to give everyone some additional context and help you along your CECL journey. But again, feel free to interrupt us at any time. So I always start with some updates and enhancements. It's sort of a running list. You might have seen some of these. You certainly have seen some of these in the past, and we're adding a bullet point or two every couple quarters, which is exciting. We've updated the Fed stress testing economic trends and projection data for 2026. That happens, I believe, I might have mentioned this last time. It happens every year in February that the Fed, they kind of gather all their economists in a room somewhere and come up with the next year of economic projections. And it's very helpful from a CECL standpoint in justifying and defending externally based qualitative factor adjustments, right? To have a single resource where you can, pull up a handful of very well-known and established economic trend lines and go backwards in time 20 years on a quarterly basis, and then go forwards in time projection-wise quarterly for 3 years. So you have a very apples to apples historical to future projection context that you can lay alongside of your own asset quality trends and metrics and help justify where you think losses are headed. And they provide not only sort of their baseline best guess actual projections of these economic trends, but they also provide, and that's kind of the purpose here, they also provide a severely adverse hypothetical case, which is what they use for those DFAST type stress tests, but can be very helpful in the context of CECL, even for smaller credit unions. The new exciting thing for today, which will be live over the weekend, so you'll be able to get it when you come into work on the office on Monday, is custom peer group functionality. So this is been a huge, it's been coming for a long time. The CECL Solver tool and our credit union tools right now have always been somewhat limited from a peer group perspective. We really wanted to focus on the NCUA's own definitions of peer groups because it was important for us and for our customers to give the NCUA, the examiners, and your auditors something that they are familiar with. And so we always wanted to make sure that, at least, and we were designing the CECL Solver tool originally, that since the methodologies were new and the accounting was new, that at least they could take solace and they felt comfortable with what peer data that our users were using. So that's why we really focused on the NCUA's own defined peer groups 1 through 6, pretty much just based on asset size. And we always allowed you to slice and dice that at least geographically by saying you would like to, limit the NCUA peer group asset ranges by region. There's 3 regions that the NCUA uses to kind of organize themselves around the country, or by state. But again, limited to those asset classes. And now we have opened that up limitlessly, I might say, and we'll go through exactly what that means, and I'll take you on a quick live demo of the new custom peer group functionality that you will be able to use come Monday. Next slide.
Yep. Well, just a reminder, all of the enhancements are always optional. They will not impact your day-to-day workings within the CECL solver, but we do, as Steve pointed out, we're trying to provide more functionality, provide more information, and so we do that, but it doesn't impact your day-to-day.
That's correct. And if we add a new piece, if we add a new piece of methodology, if we add a tool that uses or gives you an alternative methodology, we will make sure that if you like the methodology you're using, you can continue to use it. So if we enhance something or provide an alternative, like for unfunded commitments that we did relatively recently, we added an alternate methodology for unfunded commitments to make it even more very straightforward and clear. But you can keep using the methodology you have been using if you don't want to switch. So we'll never do that to you. So this is just a reminder of what that economic data from the Fed looks like each year. You can click on the historical data and go back quarterly 20 years. And then the baseline scenario, we now have 3 years of quarterly projections for all those economic trends, sort of a cadre of economists from the Fed. And then there's a severely adverse scenario you can click on to see some Armageddon type hypothetical scenarios as well. And that's all available in the knowledge base section. If you go to the CECL Solver, big blue button says knowledge base, you click on that. It'll open up a new tab with a bunch of other resources, and this is one of those resources.
I always like to point out,
yes,
just on this, the baseline scenario, right? I mean, there's so much economic news, noise, however you want to kind of characterize it today. I always think this is just kind of a sobering look just to say, okay, here's what the Fed economists, like in the baseline scenarios, here's what they're forecasting, right? And so sometimes it's even just a good sanity check, right? Just to come out and kind of see what the expectations are in the baseline scenarios, just to get a sense for what, away from the day-to-day noise, here's what what they're thinking is going to happen with the economy over the next couple of years. So anyway,
I don't know if I'd make my personal investment account decisions based upon their estimate of the Dow Jones. I don't know if I'd go out buying shares of a Dow Jones ETF based upon those projections, but
Agreed. But I will say, as a credit union, if you're trying to think about just the economic landscape that you might be living in, it's a good sanity check. Agree. All right.
Always appreciate those prognostications, though.
Exactly.
So on to the big shebang for today from CECL Solver, that you will come Monday no longer be limited to the NCUA's definition of who your peers are. You'll be able to hand select individual peers, search for them by name to build your own kind of use a build up method to kind of choose your own local peer group. If you'd like, you can search for credit unions by geography, by asset size, or by any combination of financial filters that you can imagine. Advanced compound filtering for next level research and comparisons, meaning that you can say, hey, I'd like to see all the credit unions in North Carolina that have an ROA over 1% but are starting to see credit quality issues on their used auto loans. And you can literally pull up that list of institutions, and you can save that. You can use it as a filter, or you can save it as a peer group to compare to your credit union just financially or specifically from a CECL solver standpoint. It can be used on the My Credit Union financial homepage. Remember that the sort of the financial highlights homepage that we have for your credit union, where you can see not only where your trends are headed, but what the peer median is and where your percentile rank is from 0 to 100 compared to that now completely customizable peer group. You'll be able to use it, not yet, but very soon, use it in the credit unions at a glance tool that we have. And it's also importable into the Excel, our Excel add-in. For some handful of you have subscribed separately to our Excel add-in tool, which kind of really allows complete flexibility in pulling in financial data directly into an Excel environment, and for more advanced financial analysis and comparative work. And you'll be able to pull in those custom peer groups into that environment as well. If you're not sure what that is and you'd like us to kind of show you what that's like and take you on a little tour of the Excel add-in functionality, shoot us a line, drop us a line, and we'd be happy to do so. Next slide. I'm going to show you a couple static slides for a second, and then I'm just going to share my browser and kind of go through it. But there'll be a new, right on the top of your screen, there's a little kind of a ribbon on top of your CRI or Call Report Insights login, and that says My Credit Union. There'll be another button called Custom Peer Groups, and then it will take you to a homepage for all of your custom peer groups. I have a couple example ones that I pulled in here. It shows you, you give it a name. You can share it or keep it private. It shows you how many companies are in that peer group and when it was last modified or saved. You can come in and modify them, delete them, and add new ones. I believe there's one more slide. Yes, and this is how that looks when you create a new peer group. You can search for individual credit unions and sort of create a list of one-off searches. You can search by geography. You can start with your NCUA peer group. You can say, well, I'm $200 million in assets. I'll start with NCUA peer group 5. I want to limit it to North Carolina, but I also want to limit it to Wake County or Raleigh, Cary, or a handful of counties around where we are, or I want to limit it a little bit more asset wise or for business model, right? If you're a credit union that does more commercial lending now than you used to do, and you want to compare yourselves to other credit unions that also do more commercial lending, you can do that now pretty seamlessly, or starting Monday, directly in the tool. So let me go ahead at this point and share my screen. So if everyone will bear with me for a second as I move all these things around my various setup here. Oh, let's see, share. There it is. And 2. Let me know when that pops up.
It's there.
Excellent. So this is our login to Call Report Insights and the CECL Solver for you credit unions. As I've used many times, *1 in California is sort of the guinea pig that we use for a lot of these types of demos. But you'll notice here a new choice for custom peer groups. If I click on that, take me to that homepage. I can see these ones that you saw on the screenshot before. I'm going to create a new peer group. And again, I can search for individual credit unions, but let's use that example where I'm going to start with NCUA peer group 5, and I'm going to choose just North Carolina here. There we go. And if I do nothing else, so if I just hit search, boom, there's 13 credit unions in North Carolina that are between 100 and 500 million for NCUA peer group 5. I can select all of them. I can select a handful of them and save it as a new peer group. I can add some additional requirements. Let's say I didn't want to worry about NCUA peer group. I just took all the credit unions in North Carolina. If I hit search, there's 57 of them that are headquartered in North Carolina. What if I want to say I want ROA, return on average assets, of greater than 75 basis points? All right, there's 25 of them. And here are all of their current ROAs. If I want ones that have ROA of over 75 basis points and let's say, I don't know, net charge-offs of more than 10 basis points. So I can start typing for any field in the database and it'll start popping up some suggestions. Or I can select from a list of fields and I can see right here, here's highlights, balance sheet, income statement analysis, securities. I can say, you know what, actually, I'm going to do, where was it? I saw some membership growth. No, let's do number of members instead. So we'll say, instead of net charge-offs, start typing in members. All right, number of members is greater than, I don't know, 3,000. Add filter. So now it's a compound filter, right? I'm only looking for North Carolina credit unions with an asset with a ROA over 75 basis points and more than 3,000 members. And I hit search. 20 of them. So now I've limited to, here they are. They're all in North Carolina. Any filter that you use, that filter shows down here in the results so you can, clarify or make sure that these all do meet all of your expectations. There's the member count. There's the ROA. Here's the geographic information and assets. So if I've got that, I can save it. I have to choose them first. So let's say that's good. I'm going to select all these guys and I'm going to create that peer group. Just give it that, save it. All right, there it is. NCCU's ROA member count. 20 institutions saved today. Now I'm going to head back home and I'm going to go to my CECL solver. It's loading up. And this would be, I have my peer group right here, which by default is just my NCUA peer group limited to my region, Western region, as this is a California credit union. If I scroll down below these existing options, the state, regional, and national NCUA, I'll see custom peer groups. And there it is, NCCU's, the one I just created. So now it just went back. And if I hit the public peer data, now I'm looking at peer data for these 20 credit unions that I handpicked going all the way back in time. So completely customized peer data for CECL Solver and the other tools that we have for credit unions. So this is a huge improvement. You're going to want to think about how you create the most intelligent peer group, whether being hyper local is more important to you, depending upon where you guys are located and how many branches you have, or whether the asset size range is where you want to zero in, or any other number of factors. The only kind of best practice I would suggest is, because we're looking at highly granular data, it's still call report data, but about as granular as it gets, right? Where we're looking at charge-offs and recoveries by loan segment. You're going to want a pretty good sized peer group. If you build a custom peer group with 5 credit unions in it, you're going to get a whole lot of nothing on this page, because none of those 5 might have any, junior liens or any commercial loans at all, or payday loans, or et cetera. So you're going to want to build a peer group that has a decent sample size in it so that you get really good, rich peer data and one outlier doesn't kind of blow it all up. That's just a suggestion, but go on in next week, play with it, create some custom peer groups and see how we can help. In addition to in the CECL solver, if I head home, I can also click on my credit union. And again, this is kind of a quick financial overview of my credit union here. You'll notice, in addition to my data, there are also some peer group medians and some percentile ranks from 1 to 100 of where I rank in asset growth. So this bank had, 2.5% asset growth over the last year. The peer group averaged 1.61%. So they're in the 71st percentile, right? Better than average, better than median. If I choose my custom peer group, these numbers just changed. Your percentile rank within them also changed. So you can also use that custom peer group to compare your overall financial performance, not just within the context of the CECL Solver tool. And then finally, if I head back home again, there's the advanced credit union search, which is really now exactly the same as if you go to custom peer groups and choose a new peer group. This is the same functionality, but it just gives you a list of those institutions. There's nothing else currently that you can do with it. You can just slice and dice and get a list of institutions that meet those criteria for your own curiosity. But again, if you want to build them into peer groups, which is a typical use case, you'll do that on the custom peer group page. And in the relatively near future, we're adding that functionality to the credit unions at a glance tool. If I click on this right now, you can just choose a state or a region and get all the credit unions that meet those criteria. You'll be able to choose your custom peer group, so you can get some really good, rich data that you can sort by, all different types of financial data, and you can see kind of on one page that custom peer group that you've built and see some metrics, averages, medians, max, mins, and sort by different columns of data. So that is the brand new, as of this weekend, custom peer group functionality. If you're curious about how it might impact your CECL calculations and you kind of want to talk it through, please drop us a line, give us a buzz, and we're happy to spend some time with you, suggesting how you might build one of these custom peer groups and compare it to the current peer group data you're using to see how it might impact qualitative factor adjustments and everything else. And let me go ahead and stop sharing now.
All right.
If I can. Oh, there we go. And if you'll pull your presentation back up again, Sean.
Okay, perfect. All right. So again, I think an exciting new enhancement. As Steve said, certainly reach out if you have questions on trying to fine tune a peer group or just help look for steps in creating one. Please reach out and to the service team, and they will be able to assist. All right. So secondly, as Steve often does each quarter, is puts together some credit trends updates. So Steve, I'll let you talk through these again.
Yeah, this will be short and sweet for this month's coffee talk. I wanted to focus on the new functionality and give Bill a chance to share with you a new tool that we've just built that I think you'll all be very excited about. But the looking at recent updated trends in delinquencies and asset quality for credit unions. These are credit unions for, let's see, this is NCUA Peer Group 5 right now. So this is your $100 to $500 million credit unions around the country. And I just wanted to kind of look at some of the large categories of loans and show you some trends in, median delinquencies and delinquencies at the 75th percentile. And it can be very helpful not only to look at median values, but also to look at the 75th percentile so you can see where the pain is coming, right? A lot of times median values can be negligible even when institutions are starting to see cracks in their asset quality armor, and where it pops up first or a more leading indicator is at the margins, right? Not at the median, but at the 75th or at the 90th percentile. So looking at 1 to 4 family mortgages, honestly, looking at any of them, the reason I've circled these three columns, and I mentioned this before, but it's worth repeating because it's very important in comparing these long-term trends, is there's a significant element of seasonality, annual cyclicality or seasonality to these reportable delinquencies. So you don't want to look at linked quarters. You really want to focus on the same period, the same quarter from a year ago. We typically see lots of spikes in delinquencies at the end of each year. If you look at those little, I think Excel calls them spark lines now, but the little trend lines on the right-hand side, every single one of those metrics was the highest in the fourth quarter of last year. Every single one of them dropped in the first quarter of this year. Does that mean that asset quality is getting better across the board by a significant margin in this year? Unfortunately, it does not. The way to compare it is look at the first quarter of 2024, compare that to the first quarter of 2025, and then 2026. And unfortunately, every single one of those metrics is at the median and 75th percentile for the most part is getting higher year over year over the last couple of years. So if you're looking at your first quarter data and comparing it to a quarter before, you're going to get the wrong impression of where things are headed. Not to be alarmist, but you can see if we're just looking at at mortgages, 11 basis points 2 years ago, 12 basis points a year ago, jumped up to 22 basis points in the first quarter of this year. The 75th percentile saw a similar progression. Same thing with new vehicle loans, not quite as much of an extent. Used vehicle loans are always, of course, a little elevated above new vehicle loan delinquencies, but didn't see that much increase year over year. And credit cards saw a bit of a jump in 2025, but actually not that much of a jump in first quarter of this year versus a year prior. So just want to point out that those trends we're still seeing, deterioration in reportable delinquencies and asset quality amongst credit unions in the industry. It is not at drastic levels, but it's kind of a slow and steady progression that we've seen over the last couple of years. And that continues into the first quarter of 2026, despite the declines from 12/31/2025. Next slide.
We had a question come in going back to the new resources that are available. The question was, do they need to pay to get those new resources?
If you're talking about the custom peer group functionality, absolutely not. Nothing that we give you, nothing that's part of the CECL solver, we will ever charge you additional for. CECL solver tool is yours if you subscribe to it. Any enhancements we make that are specific to the CECL solver will always be part of that subscription. The stuff that Bill's going to talk about and introduce to you guys in a few minutes, that is a separate service and product from Optima FI. And he can talk about that. So that's separate from the CECL solver, but everything we've shown so far will be part of it. The next slide, I believe I put two more in here. Just giving you an idea of reserves, right? We just talked about asset quality. And so let's talk about loan loss reserves, right? Are we reserving as an industry, as a group here, are we reserving for these increases and slow, steady deterioration in asset quality? The answer is yes. Amongst all peer groups, we are. Interestingly enough, as I mentioned before, the smallest credit unions and the largest credit unions tend to have the highest reserve to loans. And everyone else in the middle is sort of in the middle. But we've seen amongst all asset classes, a little bit less for credit unions, over 500 million for the larger credit unions. They haven't seen quite as much of an increase in reserves over the last couple of years. Part of that's because they were already there. They took bigger hits right when CECL came down the pike, right? The larger credit unions were concerned and were proactive in increasing their reserves more significantly at the beginning of CECL than the smaller credit unions were. So they've normalized their reserves a bit by keeping them more flat despite the deterioration in asset quality, whereas the smaller credit unions took a less of a hit or less of an increase in reserves right off the bat 3 years ago now, I guess, but have continued to see their reserves slowly, marginally increase as asset quality has shown some continuing weakness. So I think that's good news that our reserves are slowly but surely coming up to in lockstep with that asset quality challenge that we're seeing in some markets around the country. And then just a long-term perspective, right? That was the last 12 quarters or 3 years. This is the last 12 years. What do you notice? And I know I've talked about this before, but I always find it fascinating. Look at the column on the right, right? That's 2025. Now look at the data points all the way on the left. That's 2014. You see much difference? I don't. I don't see a whole lot of difference now over a 12-year period that included, that started right after the last credit cycle and included COVID and included CECL methodology, completely upending how we calculate reserves. And after all that is kind of shaked out, we're left not holistically that different from where we were before all these occurrences. So just some food for thought. I'll let you draw your own conclusions about what that mean. I know I've pontificated on that, and so has Sean at length in the past. Sean, any more thoughts on that?
No, I think, yeah, as we said from the very beginning, right? We're playing the same game with a new set of rules, and I think this graph kind of illustrates that has played out exactly that way.
Yep, you see 2020 and you see 2022, right? Those are the two things that happened that affected reserves. And after they shook out, we're kind of, back where we started, so to speak.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So finally, then, Steve, with the benefit of having as many users and institutions, gratefully, such as yourselves, utilizing our tool, it provides us with data that we can share with you about what's happening within your world of CECL
Yeah.
Solver. So,
And I
Steve, take
talk
it away.
about this a lot. I don't want to belabor this point. I've mentioned this each time we do a webinar, a coffee talk on CECL Solver, just to remind you of how robust our data set, our proprietary internal data set of all the CECL data really is. So if you're using our CECL Solver user averages for reserve levels at the segment level, which is something you can't really find anywhere else externally, it's all internal non-public data, or help with seeing where Q factors are amongst your peers at the segment level, that we have a very robust data set that informs that information. But you all know about that. That's old hat. So let's get to the new stuff. Let's get to something good. Bill, wow us.
Let me get through these slides. All right. Oops,
I think first we have a couple polling questions, right? We wanted to.
Yep.
Yes.
And here we go. So I'll read through them, and then Bill will talk about the results. But if you would certainly, we welcome your participation. Are you householding your client data today? A single choice of yes, no, or unsure. The second one is, what are the primary tools you're using for your analysis? Excel, Power BI, Tableau, other, not sure. And the third one is, when did your team last strategically discuss growing or retaining household relationships? And here, again, a single choice of 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, more than a year ago. We don't do this. So, again, we'll give you some time to answer those. Certainly appreciate your participation. And then Bill will talk a little bit about the results and then into household insights.
And if you don't see that third, all three questions, you might have to scroll down. It's a kind
Yep.
of three questions in one. So there's a little scroll bar there so you can catch all three of them. And no, Bill, you don't get to vote on your own product, so don't even try.
I was trying and it wouldn't let me. So.
All right. The results are up. Bill, take
All
it away.
right. Yeah, let me talk to them real quick. So the first question, are you householding your client data today? We have 17% saying yes, 28% saying no, 55% saying unsure. Second question, what are the primary tools you use for analysis? Very large, 69% using Excel, 7% Power BI, one person using Tableau, 21% other, and about 24% not sure. And then the final question, when did your team last strategically discuss growing and retaining household relationships? 25% last 3 to 6 months, 11% 6 to 12 months, 11% more than a year ago, and just over half that don't currently do this. So really interesting results, and thank you for taking the poll. Before we hop into it, there was one last question on CECL. I don't know, does it make sense to talk to that first?
Yeah, we can take it. So, Steve, it's a question came in about using, they need an external validation of the CECL tool. So can we provide them a list of possible vendors? Certainly, Saltmarsh, who's been on before, Paul Allen and their team, very familiar with it. Certainly, I think you can reach out to the service team and they can provide you with some additional
Alternatives.
alternatives. And then
Yeah.
one other question came up in the Q&A. When exporting to Excel, I keep getting an error message that says error exporting Fred charts. Why is this? The export finishes after you hit the OK button. Steve, do you
Yeah.
want to?
So we've been having some communication. I hate to quote Cool Hand Luke here, but it's really got a failure to communicate. The Fred has their own software and API, is what they call it, so that we can get all that data and pull in that economic data in real time directly from the Federal Reserve of St. Louis and their really great website that has all that information. They're having issues and have been for a while now with their own software and their API. And so it's I hate throwing someone else under the bus, but it's not there's very little that we can do about it. We're working with them, and coming up with some alternative ideas of warehousing some more of that stuff, maybe internally, so that we don't have to communicate with Fred every time somebody wants to pull that economic data. But we are aware of it. I appreciate you bringing it, calling it back to our attention. And we're working on a long-term solution so it doesn't blow up on you guys, and we're not beholden to asking the Federal Reserve every time someone's curious about an economic data point. But good point.
There was a follow-up in the chat. I believe Gary Young is also still an option for validation.
I
So
believe so.
again, yeah. Okay. Bill, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So go through real quick 2 or 3 slides here. And I want to spend most of my time in the actual live production environment and actually show you how all this works. If you go back 1 slide, Sean, if you don't mind, just to give an overview of our Household Insights. So it's a lightweight, no IT solution built specifically for credit unions that want enterprise-grade insight without added complexity. It's really about having time to do the analysis and looking at those poll results of there's a lot of time spent in Excel in terms of like there was, I think, over 50% said they're not currently doing strategic thoughts about growing or retaining those household relationships. Household Insights is built to give you that time to sort of do that analysis. So we take a complete relationship picture of your members by looking at the household, not just the individual accounts. And we're able to benchmark it to the Optimum FI's Peer Performance Index, our normative household behavior. So it looks at it nationally. We've been doing this for over 20 years with our marketing services team, consulting with credit unions to give them the insight, give them that analysis. And what Household Insights is doing is leveraging that same normative data set, that proprietary $14 billion non-public data points to you in a self-service way that you can really look at your own data, to look at your own members, to expand those relationship depths and observe the opportunities where they are. And the idea is to make it easy to go live under a week where we don't have to do connections to cores and things like that. And I'll just briefly mention that we're offering a complimentary free trial. So at the end, after you're seeing this, envision your own data in here. And if you'd like to actually sort of test drive it, we can, connect with you after the call and, get you added to that pilot. So thank you, Sean. If you want to move to the next one real fast. So how does it work? And we'll have the slides sent out afterwards so you can see this, but I'll show this in the platform. Upload a CSV of that standard account data, the deposits and loans that you already have. So if you're doing that Excel analysis today, you can provide what you're doing and we can easily upload that, clean and household that data. Take those accounts, use our algorithms that we've been doing thousands of times over the course of many years and give you all that hard work that you'd have to do manually, or if you're not doing it, be able to get that standard report out of your system and load it into Household Insights, and we perform all of that consolidation and normalization automatically. But then once we do that, you get those segmentations, and that's where it really unlocks is benchmarking against that peer data set. Other credit unions, see how the household data is performing and measuring it against that. And that's where I'll really spend some time to focus in on how are you comparing in these segmentations to other credit unions against that normative household behavior. And then finally, the ready-to-use insights. Get lists out of the platform immediately so you can actually take action on them. Pull board-ready reports to talk about what you've seen, and as well as getting that segmented information right out of there. So the intent is spend the time doing the analysis, really understand what your household makeup looks like, and then you can then decide where's the best opportunity to take action to either deepen those relationships or expand opportunities where you see fit. I'm going to move to the next slide, Sean. So this is just a take a looking at like how do we segment it? How do we think about this thing as we compare it to peers? There's 4 sort of main groups. Group A of high depositors or high deposit households over $10,000 in deposits. Group B, active credit, who has loans with you, but the active credit. Group C, transactors, who's doing transactions with you. And then Group D, down below outside the circle, the small, limited, low balancer activity. So being able to really understand very quickly where your membership base falls within 1, 2, 3, or the intersection of the segmentation really helps identify opportunity gaps and help you drive behavior of expanding those relationships. And this is something that we've done, again, over the course of many years and seen this play out over time by using this data that you're able to then compare against your own private data, which is really exciting. And I want to hop into that and actually show you how this works. So if you give me the share screen here. I can go ahead and share. And as I'm pulling this up, as I go through, if you have questions, please ask them in the chat. Would love to answer them in real time.
Yeah, Bill, we got one in the Q&A.
Yeah.
This does not affect the other exported data, correct? And I think the answer's it does not. I think this is probably about warms, Steve. I would think they're getting at.
Oh yeah, this is unrelated to
Yeah.
Household, okay.
unrelated to the CECL solver completely. Just
Yeah.
a separate new
So a
new
separate
product
data
offering
set.
from us.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, separate data set.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you able to see my screen that says Hello, Bill Rogallo?
We are. Yeah,
Perfect.
we are.
Cool. So when you land into Household Insights, you land on the dashboard. We give you a quick contextual analysis of your credit union to the public call, NCUA public call report data, total shares and deposits, cost of shares and deposits, net interest income, average assets. Benchmark you and see over time, what have you done from the previous quarter? Where it gets really exciting is where you securely provide your private data and we perform that householding analysis. You can see that over month, and you can upload it by month over month, but it's self-service. So you can upload it daily, weekly, monthly. It's entirely up to you how rapidly you'd like to put this in here to see how those changes occur. But what we do, and that's what I'm going to show right now, is around the Peer Performance Index and that normative comparison data is take a look at those households and give you insights. What does that mean? I compare to peers with these different segments. What opportunities does that unlock for me? Where are the gaps that I can address? So you're not taking the time in Excel hours every month, constantly pulling the files. You spend the time in here doing the analysis. And let me show you that over here in the segments. You got it broken by segments, products, and deposit concentrations, but I'll start over here in segments. Broken from consumer household segments and business household segments. And within these, we give you those separate segments as well, like high deposit household segments. In that first circle, those high depositors, those active credit households. We've got transacting through here as well, and then new households, which ones have come up in the last 12 months. So I've got the name of the segment, the number of households that go into it. So we're householding by address. So in the Rogala household, I may have 4 or 5 accounts, my wife, my daughter, but we're represented here as one household. So you can see the total wallet share and the opportunity at the household level. So we give you that number as well as the total deposit balance of that household.
So it really makes the unit of measurement. It takes it from the account to when you say household, I think relationship, right? It makes the unit of measurement the base relationship as opposed to an individual account, right?
Exactly. And that's where like a lot of times we've seen with our current pilots is having that account data now, you sometimes lose sight of the total opportunity there within the household if you're purely looking at just the account of loans or deposits. We put them all together in that complete relationship view for your membership or for that member so that you can see that. And how that unlocks here is over here in this opportunity scale indicator, as well as the balance and penetration index. So here is that data that I talked about, that pure performance index, that normative data, putting it right here against all of your segments. We put it against all of your products, and we put it against your deposit concentration tiers. So if I'm quickly looking at how am I performing at my credit union, if I look at the high deposit household segment, compared to peers, I'm almost on average in terms of balance, in terms of high deposit household segments. I'm a little bit under in terms of penetration. But so I can click in here and I can view more details, and I'll do that in a minute here. But what's interesting right away is I've looked onto new households. I've got 2,100 new households at $14 million. Compared to peers, I'm 77, I'm 23% less than my peers in balance. And I'm trying to do math in real time. The 36% less the penetration index. So there might be some opportunity there of let me look at these new households and see, what is that number? Is there an opportunity for my onboarding to focus on these new households? I got the total households, the penetration percentage, total deposit balance, and the average. And we give you very quickly information about this. These newly onboarded relationships that will determine your future growth in deposits, loans, and overall profitability. And then we give you that peer comparison I was talking about. What of my deposits of these new households, I'm averaging just over 5,000 per household at deposit, whereas the peer normative national balance of a new household is 6,500. Penetration, I'm getting less households than my peers in new household penetration. So I'm acquiring fewer new households than peers and capturing less than the average peer balances. So what Household Insights can do is raise up the opportunities very quickly for you to identify where you can take the next step. Single service households, we've also got a product opportunity. So of these new households, 557 of them don't have any primary checking account with me. So that's an indication of that they're not a transactor. How can I deepen that relationship? With one click, I can download the list and it pulls up into Excel or a CSV file, and I'm able to get that information. So if I have a brand new household that just came on in the last 12 months and they don't have a checking out, this gives you that actionable list to make the phone calls or to send the emails or have those reach out sessions. You've got the analysis here. You're able to quickly then take action on it. You're not spending your time in Excel moving things around and trying to decide where things are. This gives you that ability to do that. And for every one of these segments, you'll see the allocation. Like of my new households, they are 5% of my households. They only have 2% of my deposits and 15% of my credit allocation. And I got to move the zoom out of the way. Up here is the download PDF view. I want to take this out and send this over in a PowerPoint or in a board document. I can get that same information right out here with one click. And like I said, I can go to any segment and see similar things. So high deposit households, which is, as I come down to an interesting data point, is these high deposit households, as we've seen across most credit unions, are somewhere between 25 to 35% of their households hold 90+% of the deposit allocation. So knowing that and then really identifying the opportunities within there, especially if, say, they're single service. So I've got high deposit households that only have one type of product with me. Who are they? There could be some concentration risk there, and how can I deepen that relationship, get that list, go ahead and take action on them. Everything I've shown you and everything I will show you, know that you can filter by branches. So if you've got the data in here and you want to see, and this is mock data, so it may get a little funny, but I want to pick just this branch, the information updates in real time to see all the information by that branch or multiple branches that you select at that point. Let me hop over to products real fast. Similar like segments, we're providing you these standardized, normalized products, and you can compare that same information against your peers. So if I'm looking at something like money market, how much do I have? How many households have money market with me? What's that balance? How do I compare against my peers? I'm less balanced than peers, but I've got far more penetration. And I can click here and see and really drill down deep into that and get that insight. So I can go through each product, I can go through each segment, really spend time doing the analysis. And when I decide of these money market ones that I want to focus on, say these 43 that are single service, they only have money market with me, I can go ahead and click into a household list and identify who they are, what they have, and really see the makeup of that household. Back to products, I jumped over this a little bit too quickly, but you have deposit products, you have loan products, you've got consumer products, you've got business products. We'll give you everything that you provide in your data file, be able to come in here and really spend the time to do that analysis. We do it all at the same time. You don't have to provide the different files. It's all done here. Also, deposit concentration, another way to take a look at your data. Who's over 250,000? Who are those high deposit of the high deposit households? You can see them. You can then also take a look at, let's say, the $0 to $2,500 and get a sense of 55% of my households are in this particular deposit concentration. They hold 1% of my deposit allocation. Really interesting insights, being able to do that immediately by branch, by filtering all of the different components there. And in the last few minutes, let me just show this household list, because this is where you can really, spend that analysis time and decide where you would want to focus. You can, of course, configure by branches. You can go by audience, consumer, and business. But if I'm looking at, say, who are my new credit households? Here's the 448. I can click this button and I immediately get the list to go ahead and do that. And I can add other things in there, like which ones don't have a checking account. It's intentionally made to be as painless as possible to get to the answers that you're looking to do here. And just at the end, just so you don't take my word for it, let me just show you how easy it is to get that data file in there. So if you are doing householding today, your existing Excel, that would be the type of information that we'd want you to be able to upload. If you're not, standard reports that you can pull from your core, from any sort of marketing system, will allow you to upload the data, where you can just choose a file, a CSV. We take a look at the initial rows. And then I can select, the month that I would want to do it for. And again, you can do this as frequently as you want. There's no, daily, weekly, monthly. And you'll be able to see that, trending over time as we continue to build this out. But you've got the expected columns, the mapped columns. You map it one time. You don't have to map it every month. You map it the first time. As long as your file doesn't change, the next time you upload this, we'll be able to do it for you. Things that we need that are required, like the account ID, which can be obfuscated, the balance in dollars, things around the account holder, like their address. We need to be able to perform the householding. What type of product do they have? Do they have a checking account? Do they have a CD? And then as well as the branch. The more information that's added, the better and additional information that we can unlock within the system. But
so this all pulls up by default. You can just take a quick look and customize it if something is off,
yep.
or doesn't match up to what our ingestion process kind of figures it should be.
Exactly. And especially to mention in the pilot piece, and I'll just quickly hit validate here and submit, just so you can know that like it works and starts running. Hey, success, the data's been added and it's running. So it will run. It'll take 5 to say 30 minutes, depending on the size of the file that you're loading in there. But when I say within minutes, I mean minutes. You'll be able to see the output of your data there. But to your point, Steve, if as you upload that data, you map it once. We take our analysis of what makes, we look at those rows, and we've done this thousands of times before. So if it's BAL equals balance, we can try to preset that for you, give you the example of how it looks, and if you need to adjust it, we're able to do so. But as part of this pilot program that we're offering, you'll be likely interfacing with me, and we'd love to help provide you with that initial mapping. We're here to support that. So
and that gets saved, right? I mean, once you've mapped it one time, if you come in a month later and you're sending the same type of file, there's like zero.
There's zero effort. You put it in, hit validate. We just do the check before we process it, and then it runs. Then your data is uploaded again, daily, weekly, monthly. So you can spend that time doing the analysis here, not doing the sort of data gymnastics to get it to that point. So if you do want to see your own data in there, I think Jen might be putting a note in the chat. Let us know. We'd love to talk more about how to do that. So
yeah, and there was a question that can you pull the information from the Aries data file set?
And you may have to forgive me, and that's just is that a core?
Yeah,
Okay.
the Aries is a standardized standardized file format that has that type of information from it on credit unions. And I'd want to look through to make sure that everything that could get the full functionality of this is all available in the Aries. But we'll check on that and make sure that that's doable if it's doable directly from the Aries. Yeah.
Okay, and just a good reminder, if you do have any additional questions, certainly go ahead and submit those in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll get those going here. All right, let's see. Okay, yeah. So just a final reminder on questions. As Bill mentioned, they are offering a free 90-day trial on Household Insights. So I'd certainly encourage you to learn more. As Bill indicated, he is available, much like Steve has been with CECL Solver to kind of work with you. We do want to encourage you to do that. CECL Solver, if you'd like a demo on CECL Solver, please go ahead and request one now. So again, you probably saw the polling question just pop up. If you'd like more information about any of these or both, please let us know. And Lauren Snow's information is available at the bottom, as well as an alternative to reach out for either of these demos. Coming up in August, Steve and I'll be back with Paul Allen. Paul's our dear friend. He's also his firm, Saltmarsh, does do external validations of CECL Solver. They're very familiar with it, have performed a number of valuations, or excuse me, validations. So certainly register to attend the Coffee Talk in August. I'm going to give one last look to see if there's any additional chats or questions. I don't see any. Bill or Steve, any final comments before we let everybody have their weekend?
No, I mean, I was thinking more about the Aries file there, and from my recollection of the format, it does have full member name, it does have address, it does have the balance of the share or deposit, and it has a type code. And so with that information, if it's not as rich as it could be, it certainly would be comprehensive and a great starting point.
It's certainly a good conversation starter. Start with it, see if it's full enough and rich enough, and if not, then we certainly move from there. But
Yeah.
certainly a good starting point, a common starting point. Okay, Bill, any final comments before we let him go?
Nothing related to this, but just say to Steve, go Canes for your hockey team. Just to put a bow on it and wrap it around.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't get as much sleep last night as I had anticipated getting, but at least overtime was short and sweet in this particular instance.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you again in August. Enjoy the next couple of summer months, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks again.
Thanks everybody.
Have a great weekend.